Hi, welcome to week four. In the first several weeks of the course, we're looking at the political landscape of a constitutional regime whose founding document was premised on the idea that fragmenting political power could contain the factionalism that generally besets attempts to govern democratically. Much like the idea of Voldemort scattering his soul among various Horcruxes, that would make him immortal, the framers of our Constitution believed that breaking up power between the federal and state governments and dividing power at the federal level among separate institutions, that would create a kind of balance of power that would preserve the need for rivaling factions to bargain and compromise and thus sustain the system. And obviously, that's breaking down now. This week, we're taking up an issue where the fragmentation of power has not necessarily yielded ideal results. The Black Lives Matters movement is really just the latest manifestation of outrage and frustration among African American members of the American community over perceived injustices. This week we'll learn about how federalism has shaped race relations. As Robertson notes, federalism for the first generations of our nation made slavery strictly a states' rights issue and not a fit subject for national discourse. In the years after Reconstruction, federalism enabled Southern states to impose segregation and systematically mistreat their African American populations, that idea of laboratories of repression that we talked about last week. Democracy has always had exclusionary impulses. It's a natural tendency to draw, an increasingly tight circle around the people we trust, the circle of we, if you will, and then exclude those others who don't look like us or who we fear might not be worthy of citizenship, either through unwillingness to work or through the embrace of un-American ideas. This is where you begin to hear arguments about purity coming into political discourse in very disturbing ways. As this week's reading suggests, our history offers plenty of instances where Americans have failed to live up to their democratic ideals because of those impulses to exclude. Is federalism to blame for our inability to find ways to treat African Americans and other minorities more equitably? I think Robertson's broader point is that federalism is a tool, and that Americans who don't believe in equality have used federalism to prevent policies that would otherwise have pushed us in a more egalitarian direction. The American dilemma, as Robertson describes in Racial Politics, is certainly a set of issues we should give, that should give us plenty of issues to discuss. This week, in addition to the weekly forum and the quiz on Chapter 4, we have our first short writing assignment, which deals with the public policies at the federal, state, and local level that contributed to the situation that led to the Michael Brown shooting in Ferguson, Missouri, erupting into the rioting that culminated in formation of the Black Lives Matter movement. Ferguson, Missouri was in no way a unique situation in American politics. Thousands of communities throughout the United States could have seen a very similar outcome. So let's have a great week of discussion this week.